Adam Pearce would say it is official. Jade Cargill has signed with the WWE a multi-year deal. And of course, we are going to talk all about it right here today on WrstlXtra. Stay tuned.
What's going on, good people? Welcome to another edition of WrstlXtra. I am the guy they call the Professor, GB, whatever you call me, Gerard Bonner. And I am not here alone, of course. Normally we're in a trio space, but today the tag team is going to handle it, much like the New Day would. Hanging out with us is the good brother Mex. How are you, brother?
Yeah, I'm good, man. A lot of good stuff that's happened this week. Some somber stuff, but I think, there's been an all in all a very interesting week for our Black professional wrestlers.
An extremely interesting week. And so there's so much news that we're just going to jump right into it. Obviously, the big news of the day. And it's funny because I guess she's a three-time champ here at WrstlXtra because for the last 3 weeks, she has been the startup talk of conversation, the one and only Jade Cargill, who 2 weeks ago when we talked about her, she was making her return to AEW on an episode of Collision. Last week when we talked about her, it seemed clear that she had left AEW and we were trying to make sense of her final match on Rampage of all places for the TBS Championship. And now this week, in the great words of the general manager of all things WWE, it is official. Thank you, Adam Pearce. Jade Cargill is signed to WWE, announced by ESPN. There have been tweets put out by Triple H about this. It is the lead story on WWE.com. Jade Cargill signs a multi-year deal with the WWE. All right, so let's start first off, Mex, by asking you this. What do you make of the announcement? Last week we talked about ways that she could show up in WWE. Did you expect this kind of an announcement out the gate so soon?
No, I didn't expect any announcement because this is when we see announcements like this, it's like celebrity kind of stuff, like
yes.
Mike Tyson who's gonna do a 1-year deal with WWE or something.
Yeah.
They didn't even do anything like this for Ronda Rousey, if I'm correct. We knew that Ronda Rousey could be joining the WWE, but she just showed up when she showed up.
Yeah.
And
they announced after she showed up.
Yeah, that she's arrived and all of that kind of stuff. So
yeah.
I think it's very interesting the way they're dealing with this. It gives it a real sports feel. Obviously ESPN announcing it as well, but it just gives it a real sports feel in the way that it's a big signing. It's almost like a transfer from another club or another institution in that sense.
Yeah.
And that it's very, very real. And we talked about this last week. It's all about the perception and the presentation of how they're going to manage her and what these other ladies and just wrestlers in general in AEW may be looking at next year when a lot of their contracts are up for renewal. Like, wow, look how they're treating her off the gate, that she hasn't even appeared on TV.
Right.
They didn't do the usual, she just comes into a segment and we're like, oh my God, it's Jade, or the other usual of sitting in the takeover crowd or anything like that. Like, they are treating her like they've signed a celebrity. And I just think it's going to be massive. We've heard that she's going to report to the PC. That's been confirmed. The way they've treated her, I think, is beyond NXT. I think NXT is needed. I believe that, but I think it's got to be like a main roster status as well.
Yeah.
I'm really flabbergasted the fact that I saw WWE's tweet, them saying that they have signed her. Triple H, like you said, ESPN, and it's just like, this is a big deal. This is a really big deal.
It's a huge deal. And you're right. When we start thinking about wrestlers being signed, quite frankly, Cody Rhodes didn't get this treatment.
No.
You know, when Cody Rhodes was announced, his announcement was WrestleMania. We just had rumors for 2 months. But this is a major move for WWE. And you're right. I think this is indicative, for one, of how they plan to use Jade Cargill. It's clear Jade Cargill is not going to be treated like some newcomer who has never been in a WWE ring and we hope can do some kind of things. It's clear she is being treated like a massive superstar. We're talking multi-year deal. Again, AEW, God bless them, has not had a signing announced on ESPN. Like, let's just call a thing, right? So this is where things get very, very interesting, to your point, with those who are looking at the bidding war of 2024, which will encompass multiple people, one of which we'll definitely talk about today. And it's a great, great moment for Jade Cargill. So we discussed this in our group chat. We talked about it a little bit last week, but now already knowing that she's, according to reports at the PC today, where she reports, when and where do you think we first see Jade Cargill?
I still reckon it's got to be this weekend, NXT No Mercy. I think that'll be a good place. Even if she doesn't come out and confront Becky after Becky retains or whatever, that could be even, she's in the crowd there for the women's title match. And it's like, oh, this is the multi-year deal, Jade Cargill that we just signed or whatever the case is. Yeah. Or it's a case of Becky retains. Obviously, we know Becky's got Tegan Nox if she retains on Monday Night Raw. And then following that, Jade makes her debut on Monday Night Raw. It's this weekend. It has got to be by Monday to kind of cash in on the excitement. I think, again, you don't want to leave it too long from, obviously, when she's been off of AEW TV. You still want to capitalize on that hype and then, kind of at least show her on TV. And obviously, a lot of people said that, she should go to the Performance Center and practice up and all that kind of stuff, which I'm a firm believer as well. But the beauty of the WWE is she does not have to wrestle.
This is true.
They can put her on TV. She can be in segments. She can be doing all this kind of stuff. That's pretty much how they started her in AEW for a significant while, before she had that initial first tag match with Shaq and Red Velvet and Cody. She doesn't have to wrestle. She can just do segments and obviously she's, 2.5, 3 years grown since then. So she can wrestle. It's not like she's incapable. So yeah, they don't have to rush it, really. They have to make that match that she has, ideally for the NXT Women's Championship, like I predicted.
Yeah.
That match needs to be blockbuster, like the world is watching sort of thing. So it's even going to be interesting the stage or whereabouts they feature that. Survivor Series being obviously one of their quote unquote big four could be a great place, even just for NXT, a great stage for the NXT women's title. Who knows if they go that route anyway? Who knows? But yeah, they don't need to rush it. But I think the only thing they need to rush is getting her on TV now. The wrestling and everything can still take time to come.
Yeah, because the interesting thing here is the thought that there is still an introduction for Jade Cargill to happen to the WWE universe. And there can't necessarily be the assumption that they were watching AEW. The numbers wouldn't necessarily indicate that all of WWE's fans are watching AEW. So I think it's going to be interesting. I also think the timing of this is interesting, to have her come in while Bianca Belair is currently out. Like, I think, again, it seems like at some point we're going to have, obviously, a collision between those two, which we don't need to rush. But my God, that's maybe WrestleMania 41 is where we first see that happen. Because I think 40 is too soon. We still need to get Rhea and Bianca somewhere in here, and maybe even Charlotte Bianca. But we absolutely, Bianca Jade, good God. Like, what have we done to deserve this? I don't know what we've done to deserve this. But I do think, to your point, that somewhere in the next 7 days, you know, they being WWE has to capitalize on this Jade situation. And I mean, I'm just thinking about this. I don't recall. Maybe the closest thing I've seen to this is Jon Moxley in terms of the time from when their contract with one company ended and the time with which they showed up on WWE television. Maybe even more recent, Bryan Danielson and Adam Cole, when their contracts ended and literally it was almost like the next week they showed up on AEW television. This is the space we're in right now. You know, the difference is there was never a formal announcement that Jade was gone from AEW. Like, it wasn't formal. We didn't know, you know, there was all kinds of speculation when her contract would be up and things of this nature, which, by the way, I'm going to mention this. You guys are going to need this a little bit later in the show. So remember this. One of the reasons Jade Cargill could show up literally 14 days after she's gone from AEW is because she finished out her contract. When you finish out your contract, there is no such thing as a non-compete. It's only when that contract is ended early, whether you've been terminated or you quit, that you end up having to deal with a non-compete clause. Remember that. We'll come back to it. But with that said, this is massive news for the WWE, who's had a week of mixed bag kind of news, if we're completely honest. But this Jade Cargill news, it's massive. And I have to admit, I did not think they would be announcing her on ESPN and doing the full court blitz that they have been doing today. I did not think that. Not that she wasn't worthy of it. I didn't think they would just acknowledge her in that way. I knew it was a big signing. I thought they'd go the route of her just appearing and then they'd say something. But going this route, I think, says an awful lot about what they see in the future for Jade Cargill. So we've already kind of talked about, you know, what we think her first big match should be, which we all seem to think, even in the chat, they seem to think it's Becky Lynch, which I would agree she'd be the person. I guess the next question is, since this is a multi-year deal, let's look ahead to WrestleMania. I know it's still early. It's just barely 6 months away. Where do we see Jade Cargill fitting in for WrestleMania?
It's very, very interesting. Because even right now, when you look at things like the SmackDown side of things is, I to be honest, the SmackDown side of things, there's Charlotte, there's Becky. Neither of them are, Bianca. None of them are champions right now.
Right.
Io and Asuka just put on a fantastic match on Friday. So with Mania being, you know, relatively close, but, you know, still a bit far away, it's very hard to see where they go. You know, if you had to force someone to put something on it, you would assume maybe Charlotte will be champion by then, and then maybe you do a Bianca versus Charlotte Flair, because that's a big match which they haven't you know, got to yet. With the Raw side of things, I think they've set up Becky and Rhea quite a while ago. I wouldn't be surprised if a Jade Cargill maybe got some type of celebrity something, like some type of maybe part-timer or a celebrity of some sort, because at this point she would need some type of involvement in WrestleMania. Maybe someone, maybe not necessarily a celebrity, maybe a Hall of Famer or something like that. But yeah, just someone maybe that's not there that they can kind of bring in to kind of help and put on a good match. Yeah, something come to mind for you?
I thought this through a little bit, and there's one person that comes to mind that makes me go, oh, this could be very interesting, and that is Nia Jax.
I thought that, but I thought they would do that, you know, in like they would do it before WrestleMania. I think Nia might lose to Rhea, but then, you know, still be big and bad, and then like Jade could conquer her as well, sort of thing. I didn't see that as a WrestleMania match, but it's definitely something they're gonna do.
Because I'm thinking, I mean, the other thought potentially, and I'm not sure honestly that this is big enough for Jade as of yet, unless they build her up more, would be Raquel Rodriguez. You know, I just think that Jade's first WrestleMania is going to be a situation. Like, I mean, there's likely going to be one of their 24/7 documentaries about this. You know, there's going to be a thing for sure. And so I'm thinking they're going to want to put her in a great match, you know, a marquee match for sure. Again, I'm not fully convinced on Raquel, and that's just looking at what we currently have. There may be some other names that pop up between now and then that could be considered. That would be very interesting. But you're right. I think, you know, we have, I mean, wow, maybe even Bailey.
Yeah. But
that would
Bailey,
be the problem is Bailey needs a WrestleMania win, though.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
She needs a WrestleMania win. So we don't need to put Bailey in a position to have to put over another big star. I think she's done enough of that. But yeah. So I guess you guys in the chat, let us know who you think should be. And I know we're looking way ahead, but hey, we can do this now that she's officially signed to a multi-year deal. Who is Jade's inaugural opponent at WrestleMania coming up in Philly? Let us know in the chat, which I think is going to be pretty amazing. Sticking with the WWE, we're kind of working backwards here. We'll go back to SmackDown. As on SmackDown, you know, we've been following this story surrounding the Street Profits and Bobby Lashley. And as of late, we've been asking, hey, what's your name? You know, it's almost like Eminem. My name is, and the answer is, we don't know. And so the problem now is, at least they were winning, but now they racked up a loss. And this wasn't just any loss. It was a loss where Bobby Lashley looked irritated with them, left them in the ring. Backstage, he's saying, hey, if you guys can't cut it, you're out of here. So my question now to you is, Mex, what do we make of this? Are we already getting a breakup here? Is this going to cause them to kind of toughen up and straighten up and fly right? What's to make of Bobby Lashley and the Street Profits?
You know what this whole thing is, right? It's like they've written a book of whatever this is that these lot are all involved in. It's like they've written a book, but like a child has come along and ripped out all the pages. All the pages are still in the cover of the book, but the pages are no longer in order because the child has just ripped them out and stuffed them in there. Like they've already shown us Bobby Lashley ordering them to be nasty after a win, and they've beaten somebody up and everything like that.
Right.
So why now has Bobby Lashley, by nefarious means, done something to Rey Mysterio, thrown him back into the ring, and Dawkins is questioning him like, oh, like, do I capitalize on that? Like, oh, that was a bit naughty. Like,
right,
you've already proven you're a bad guy. You see what I mean? So why have we taken a step back and now you're not sure, and now it's ultimately cost you, and rightly so, Bobby is lambasting you, but this should have happened before you've now shown us you've got a mean streak.
Right.
Storytelling, like, it's just you're telling this story in an incorrect order. We still don't have a name, so we don't really know. You know, he's telling them off, but who are they to him? Like, it's just like a dad telling these two, like, you've just seen two black boys messing up in the road, and because you're black as well, you're like doing the father figure thing, but you're not my dad. So like, who are you? Like, I don't know, man. It's all the seeds are there and stuff, right? But there's just no through line. The story is like, I don't know. They're just doing things within this book, like I say, but it's like I'm reading the book out of order. It's weird.
Yeah, it is weird because I can't tell where they're going with this, right? And that's, I mean, like, it's one thing to be able to say there are multiple options to this story, but when you can't tell where they're going and it doesn't make sense, it's kind of like, okay, are we lost on this trip? What are we doing here? So I think we get answers next week when Bobby, or at least hopefully we get answers next week when Bobby Lashley is on the Grayson Waller effect to potentially talk about this. Does Bobby Lashley have some other team that's going to teach the Street Profits? Is he going to have to say, hey, you guys need to do this if you want me to rock with you? Personally, I think there has been some just real muddy waters for the Street Profits. For instance, why are you still coming out to the same entrance music? Why are you still dancing the same? Why are there still red cups? All the things, it's almost like a mistaken identity. Like you're not sure of who you want to be. We want to be bad, but we want to be good. We want Mikey, like us, please like us. But I'm going to be evil and mean and bad. And I don't know who I am. So I think the Street Profits are going to have to figure out who they are so that we can get back on the train again and be excited about this, because this is one of those things that we were initially very excited about. And now it's just up in the air. It's crazy to me that this is the story, perhaps, of all of WWE that makes the least sense right now. You know, I can't make any heads or tails of it. So,
like I'm saying, there's just pages, but the story isn't in order at all. Like they should be, once they first meet Bobby, they should be allowed to still come out dancing and with the cups. But if Bobby's trying to whip them into shape, you surely, you know, one day they're coming out and doing all that. Bobby's like, put the cup down, like literally knock it out of their hands, like stop, just walk to the ring, like you know, taking all the adulation and stuff like that. You don't need to dance or anything like that. You know, that spot with Rey Mysterio being thrown into the ring and Dawkins not capitalizing should have happened weeks ago.
Yes,
should have happened weeks ago, and then he lambasts them, and then after they win, whoever they beat last week or whatever it was, then it's like, no, we'll finish them, sort of thing, and then they go, and it's like, okay, now we've seen they've taken progressive steps to turn guys to turn to heels, but this is like, 1 week I'm a heel, 1 week I'm not, 1 week I'm partying, next week I'm serious. Bobby is here telling them on Friday, I'm gonna take your suits back.
Right. Like, what are we doing?
Oh, not you trying to strip them. Like, what is this? Like, it's very odd. Like, like I said, all the pieces are there for this to be great, especially with the characters involved. The reactions that Bobby gets is it's somewhat mind-blowing. Like, people love this guy, and even how I'm expecting, maybe not this week, because you said you got the Grayson Waller show, which is correct, but maybe there's a week where it's like Bobby's like, let me show you how to do this, and he just goes mad on someone after a match or something like that. Like, something just needs, just tell this story in order. That's all I'm asking. Like, make it make sense.
Make it make sense. That is really the big issue here. Make it make sense. And hopefully in the next week or so, this will start to make sense, or else we're probably going to just kind of cut our losses and not even concern ourselves with Lashley and the Street Profits, which would be a tragedy, because this story has been going on long enough for, at the very least, for us to know his name, right? We should know their names. So cheers, show up, please. All right. So part of what made this weekend kind of weird for WWE was a mixed bag of news. So we'll start with this one piece of news that happened where we got the media rights announcement, where SmackDown will be moving from Fox back to USA starting next year. And it will encompass a 5-year deal worth $1.4 billion, which is, just humor me, about $500 million more, than the Fox deal for 5 years, which I think is an absolutely fantastic move for WWE. Again, a cable company gives them more money than a network company. You're winning, like, big time, right? And then they announced that Elimination Chamber is going to be in Australia, like all this great news. And then we get hit moment by moment by moment with a total of 21 releases from WWE. We'll run down the list, and then, of course, we will heighten the African-American superstars on this list. But on the list, Mustafa Ali, Rick Boogs, Aaliyah, Elias. That means we can't walk with them anymore. Then we have Riddick Moss, Top Dollar, Shelton Benjamin, Emma, Dolph Ziggler, Dabba-Kato, Dana Brooke, Mansoor, and Masay, Quincy Elliott, Shanky, Ulisa Leone, Kevin Ventura Cortez, Ike Manjiro, Brooklyn Barlow, Bryson Montana, and Matt Riddle. So of those, your black superstars, of course, being Bryson Montana, Quincy Elliott, Masay, Shelton Benjamin, Top Dollar. Man, what are your thoughts on these releases?
Releases are never nice. I said on a podcast earlier this week that I felt like these release things were like a thing of the past, a thing of the pandemic. They were heavily associated with the pandemic. And, I just thought, well, at a place now where we didn't necessarily need to do that. Obviously, there was a merger last 2 weeks ago now. And there was a lot of staff within the offices that were losing their jobs and stuff because of the merger. Nothing was mentioned about the talent losing their jobs, but here we are. I think it is an absolute crime for Shelton Benjamin to ever lose a job. He knows far too much. He's way too talented. If you don't see a place for him as an active talent anymore, you offer him a coaching role. I think you offer him a coaching role. You offer him a producer role. And that's where you fit him in and still put his mind to work, because he's just a great talent. The Top Dollar one, just being Top Dollar, surprised me. But I think in the last week I've read a lot of maybe him rubbing people up the wrong way. Obviously, you never know how true these things are. But I guess on the positive, keeping Asante, the Adonis, and B-Fab, you hope to see that, okay, maybe they've got plans for these guys. Asante is a really good wrestler, so I'd like to see how they put him to use since they decided to keep him around. Quincy was getting over in NXT. I know there was some controversy surrounding him. I'm not too sure of what it was some months back, and I can only think that's what's led to him just kind of being off TV since then. And obviously now they've used this as an opportunity to release him. Dabba-Kato, someone that you could say they flirted with a lot, probably brought him up from NXT earlier than they should have. Found positions for him all the time. Changed his name, changed his character so many times. It's weird to me why someone like that, well, I say it's weird to me why someone like that didn't work in the WWE, but this is obviously a new shape of WWE in terms of who's controlling it. And you can see that through even some of the other stars that have left in Boogs and Elias and stuff like that. Maybe they're not Triple H's kind of wrestlers in this modern day. What was is it Blake? What's his name? Blake?
Bryson Montana.
You see this one, yeah? I used to see this guy all the time on NXT Level Up.
Yes.
And he was doing some good stuff. Like,
yes.
I'm very surprised that, and I know they have a thing in NXT now, like, if you're not making certain progress by certain milestones, that's it. Like, which is fair enough, because they've got a massive talent pool and more people they're bringing in all the time, always holding tryouts and stuff. But I just feel like this is a bit unfortunate for him. Like, I don't think he really, from all accounts, he was good. So unless this is another kind of misdemeanors behind closed doors, which is just my speculation, we haven't heard anything like that, I can't understand why he hasn't been given another chance or a longer go at it sort of thing. But you never know, he can go off and make his name elsewhere, and hopefully one day we see him again on the TV screens. Is there anyone else that I missed out there?
I felt like there was and I think it's Alexis Gray is her name. I think she was also caught in the releases as well. She was she had not been on TV in ring, but she had been doing some things backstage as part of Chase U.
Okay, I think I think I saw her. I haven't seen her before, but I remember the name when it was released.
So it's certainly interesting. Again, there's never a good time for this, and we certainly do wish people well. For Quincy Elliott, I do remember his debut on NXT, not Level Up, but on NXT, had some controversy around it for sure. And then he got injured. And so we certainly haven't seen him, but then there's been some other controversies I've just kind of remotely been hearing about for him. So the one thing I can say for everyone is, we're in a very healthy space for the pro wrestling industry where there are multiple places for people to apply their craft. And so for people who are released from WWE, there are thankfully other places that they can go where they can indeed apply their craft and further their career if that's what they desire to do. For some, this might be the end because they may decide to pursue something else. But I believe if you want to continue in pro wrestling, there are so many other places that you can do that in, that this doesn't have to be the end. And as we've seen in times past, a release now does not mean that you won't get the opportunity to return in the future, if they handle this well. So certainly we hope that things will improve for then. Switching gears to head over to AEW. It was a big week for AEW last week as well, as AEW presented its Grand Slam Dynamite, Grand Slam Rampage. And really one of the names that just keeps doing great things is Swerve. Even though Swerve wasn't officially on the card, Swerve and Prince Nana on Hot 97, one of the big, hip hop stations in New York City. And this Nana dance is going crazy. Man, what do you make of Swerve and Nana really becoming a thing that's almost bigger than AEW right now?
Listen, Prince Nana's making me eat my words. I put out the statement. I said, I don't know what, as good as he is, as legendary as he is, I don't know what he's adding to Swerve. I said that. I hold my hands up. My bad. Like, honestly, it's great. Like, as serious as Swerve is and everything, it's just that level of enjoyment for the act. I wouldn't say he's helping to get Swerve more over, but obviously Swerve is already over. Like, let's not get that twisted. But the dance, it's like every time the music hits now, that's gonna follow. So even if it's a serious segment coming, there's a level of enjoyment. There's a level of I need to sit up and pay attention now,
right?
Sort of thing. Like he's really added to the overall act. So kudos to Prince Nana there. Although he, like I was originally arguing, he hasn't acted in the way of a quote unquote generic manager, arguably because Swerve doesn't need that. He has definitely now proven his worth to the act for the likes of the Doubting Thomases like me. So I'll take that one on the chin. I think this Hangman stuff is really good. The trios match, which saw the Embassy lose the trios titles, the Ring of Honor trios titles, was very good. And obviously just Hangman's seriousness, Swerve being just so bitter about having to watch it all play out and everything like that. It's really looking good. And obviously they've got the big pay-per-view match this weekend on Wrestle Dream. My optimism is just still a bit in the gutter because I just don't want them to do it to Swerve, man. I need Swerve to get the win. I was hanging my last hope on your predictions of the Elite, just everything for them's not working out, and then they went and won the trios titles, and I was just like,
right.
Like, I wanted Gerard to be right,
and
now they went and won the trios title. So who knows? That you never know what they plan to do on the weekend. But I would love to see Swerve get a big win here, even if Hangman is to get another win down the line on a Collision or whatever. Like, I think this pay-per-view Swerve could do with a massive win.
And considering it's in Swerve's native state of Washington, they're going to be in Seattle, a place where he really has cut his teeth and grown up. And so to me, given what happened with Eddie Kingston on Wednesday night, him becoming the Ring of Honor World Champion in New York City, come on. I mean, the writing's all there. Give Swerve this opportunity, and I think they're going to have an amazing match. There's no doubt about it. An incredible match. You mentioned the Trios Championships. The AEW Trios titles were successfully defended by the Approved, which again, the Approved is... the Acclaimed. Oh, gosh. Thank you for saying. I know who the Approved is. The Approved is another wrestling group with some folks I work with that came out. So wow, the Approved, I'm sure, would probably be glad that I said that.
They would approve.
They would approve. But the Acclaimed, they now go 2-0 at Grand Slam, which I think is a big deal for them. And so shout out to them. And then staying on this AEW trajectory, last week we spent some time talking about what's next for Ricky Starks. Ricky Starks main event collision this week in a Texas death match against Bryan Danielson. What did you make of this match, and where does Swerve go from here?
So Starks, what's next for him is the WWE, but that's down
there. Well, that would only make sense after Cody and Jade.
Yes. Both his people there. He posted a picture saying he was proud of Jade. Don't worry, I'm sure you are. I'm sure they're warming your seat.
Oh yes.
I think this is part of what we're seeing with Starks. He's been put in fantastic positions over the last 2 months, 3 months or so. Wrestling some of the biggest names in the company. And it's all, in my opinion, to sweeten him up, to keep him. For far too long, they've done not much with him. His star has grown, and we're now in a place where, his contract is probably coming to an end at some point next year. And it's like, well, we don't want to lose him. So we're kind of throwing all of this at him. He remains, from what he was saying, I haven't lost to Bryan Danielson. I wasn't submitted. I haven't, been pinned. It's been, him passing out, I guess, on 2 occasions now.
Right.
With not getting up from the death match. And he looks great in defeat. He's great in these matches. He looks great in defeat. He's fantastic on the mic. He's a massive talent. It looks like it may be too little too late if AEW, still plan on keeping him, which I'm sure they do. I think it looks like everything is pointing towards a WWE move for him in the near future. But right now he's, I guess they are using it as a way to kind of show him, look what we can do with you, this, that, and the other. And he's probably using it as a way like, WWE, look at me and look what I can offer and how great I am as a storyteller and in the ring and everything like that. It's great. This is why, 2 major companies, if not more, are necessary, because it drives this great competition, gives this great opportunity. You just wish it never has to come to now you want to keep me, you're treating me right, sort of thing. But he's really benefiting from it. Danielson's come in, he's booking Collision. He's not removed him from that kind of top spot that Punk had him in, and he's really helping him as well. So yeah, it's good for Starks. Great position for him.
This is interesting. And I just decided I was going to look to see, because we're talking about this whole contract situation for Ricky Starks, and I wanted to figure out, when is his contract up? And I'm reading something that's telling me his contract. Am I reading the right thing here?
Go on.
Am I I just got to make sure I'm reading this right. Oh, no. I'm reading this wrong. I'm okay. Because I was like, this can't be right. This can't be
right. What were you interpreting?
I saw a thing. I asked, when his contract in AEW was up, and something I just read said September, and I'm like, that's not possible that his contract is up. But it was talking about Jim Ross's contract is up in September. But certainly 2024, we're definitely looking at a situation with Ricky Starks. So let me ask you this: what do you think AEW has to do to get Ricky Starks to re-sign with them? Now, we just saw, interestingly enough, Eddie Kingston has signed a 4-year deal with AEW, so he's going to be there for another 4 years. But Ricky Starks, do you think he resigns? And what do they have to do?
I don't think it's what AEW has to do. It's how WWE could potentially mess this up from here. I think it's more of a thing that, if WWE, say their mid-card, upper mid-card becomes full, or, they don't offer him a good deal when it may be time for him to come in, or their creative goes down the drain, say a certain Mr. McMahon comes back in power and is booking creative and it just doesn't look so appealing anymore. or if they go back into this, you know, hiring freeze or whatever the case is. I think this is not. I think AEW will continue to do all they can to keep him. I'm not sure at this point. I see A Dazzle in the chat. Big up A Dazzle. He says TNT International Ring of Honor champion. I'm not sure how much these titles could do for him at this stage, because especially the way he's been handled on Collision in the last few months, like he's almost above all of this. Like, you know, I really think this is now. It's like Jay White. Jay White was basically a through ball to join WWE, and WWE had a hiring freeze, and it looked like Vince McMahon was back in power, and it's like, yeah, I'm not going there. Let me U-turn and go this way. I think that's the situation we're looking at with Starks, and possibly could be maybe some others, which, you know, they're not as established. And Starks is a big star, and he ticks all the WWE boxes. I really do think it's a case of WWE messing this up more so than AEW being able to provide anything that's going to really turn his head. Unless, you know, they could throw money at him, they can make him world champion. That would help. But yeah, I think it's more WWE don't mess this up sort of thing from here.
I also wonder, to your point, you know, obviously, you know, there's a great relationship between him and Cody. You know, there's a part of me that wonders, you know, will he at some point, you know, make a clandestine trip to Atlanta and sit down with Cody and Jade and say, so let me talk to you, you know, and find out, hey, what is your experience like there? You know, and they come back and say, dude, you know. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting. We have spent some time talking about how some of the promotions have treated, you know, stars that look like us and the like. You know, one of the places that has seemingly treated stars like us very, very well is Impact Wrestling. And over the last 2 weeks, Impact Wrestling has presented kind of part 1 and part 2 of their 1000th episode, which, just to think, Impact Wrestling, 21 years, you know, they've lasted 3 times longer than the original ECW. They were existing longer than WCW. Like, it's kind of a crazy thought to think that Impact has been around that long. And on this 2-part episode, you know, what we're looking at is so much representation from our Black stars on Impact. It's kind of nuts. I mean, whether it's, you know, the Feast or Famine, where you've got both Moose and Chris Bay winning title shots ultimately as part of this, you know, the opening segment being, you know, the 10 knockouts involved in that match, and 4 of them are Black superstars, which is crazy. You know, the return of Team 3D, Lio Rush defending the X Division Championship, even though it was a loss, it was the main event of the first episode. And then all of these incredible knockouts. Man, what do you let's back up and ask, what do you make of this 2-part episode 1000 from Impact and what it looks like for us for Black wrestlers?
I mean, firstly, I think maybe about, where are we now? 2023. So maybe about 6, 7, 8 years ago, I would have never ever thought we would get to 1000 episodes of Impact.
True.
This Impact isn't something that, you know, I tend to watch. I watch the pay-per-views, but just week to week, I don't tend to see. I catch some of the YouTube clips and stuff just because of time. When I do watch it, I'm always entertained. The product is very good, but just because of time, I just struggle. The thing is, for the Black stars, again, I think I mentioned this before with the women. This is a place where they're taking their opportunity.
Yes.
You know, they're getting a chance to come in. I guess with the Impact recording schedule as well, it gives them a chance to, you know, still be at home, still work elsewhere and all of that kind of stuff. So it ticks a lot of boxes. You know, the only box it doesn't tick is, I guess, that kind of national recognition in some senses. But if you put in a shift, you do a good job, the national recognition will come. And we've seen that the opportunity to move and go elsewhere or whatever the case may be will always happen. the amount of black stars they push is, I really don't know. I don't know the structure of Impact. I don't know if there's a black person in the office that's basically like, let's put this person forward, let's do this with this person. You would think so, but at the same time, if that's the talent they've got access to, and the talent kill it every time. Like, they literally kill it whenever given an opportunity. So, you know, what they've done with even Naomi, who is, I guess, one of the biggest stars that's come in recent times. We were worried. I remember us being worried that they shoot her to the title at the beginning, and it's like, where does she go from there, sort of thing. But I have to say, from what I've seen, they've managed her very well, and they've still kept her looking strong. They've kept the division around her very competitive. I loved the little look by Mickie James. Mickie James was looking at, obviously, the title she's held before. Now it's with Naomi. I think that's a big money match that they could have. Mickie James and, I'm saying Naomi, Trinity.
Yeah, I was gonna let it slide, you know.
Sorry, yeah, Trinity. I think they're doing so much right, and as long as you know, you would wish that Impact in itself could grow, and they wouldn't have to, you know, be seen as this feeder system and lose these talents to other shows. So we can have, you know, a third major brand. That would be brilliant. But as long as it is going to be, like, respectfully, this kind of feeder system, our guys and girls just keep taking your opportunities, show out as they are when they're getting opportunities. It's not even just a pay-per-view thing. Like, week to week on TV, I'm seeing they're doing, you know, certain things, and it's just like, you're gonna have to stand up and pay attention to these guys and girls. It's phenomenal, really. Like, there isn't another company on like this kind of scale, mainstream wise, that give our talents such opportunity week to week. You know, what we were saying before we start recording, almost segment to segment. Like, it's really impressive.
Yeah, it's quite amazing. I mean, you know, the return of Tasha Steelz and Awesome Kong, and to think that, you know, Awesome Kong is obviously a major legend in Impact, you know, but her and Naomi and Savannah Evans and, you know, Tasha Steelz, all four of them in the same match, you know, in the opening segment of Impact 1000, and then in the closing matchup, like it's incredible, the diversity that's there. And I mean, it's all across, you know, the levels of Impact, whether you're talking the main event, the mid card. I mean, you're seeing everything. They had the X Division match with Kevin Knight and Rich Swann, and it's just like, and Chris Bay. I'm just like, good gracious. I don't know that there is, to your point, a national wrestling company that per capita has more black wrestlers on their TV screens than Impact Wrestling, you know? And then when you look at what they're doing in their women's division, what they've done with the knockouts, it's incredible. And I feel like Impact Wrestling, which I've referred to as the little engine that could, has to start being recognized for what they are doing. And they're not, and it's not, and it doesn't feel like, oh, well, we're just putting up women because the other companies aren't. We're just putting up black stars because the other companies aren't doing it in mass. They have managed to galvanize some of the most incredible wrestlers, period. You know, I mean, my God, what the opportunities granted to a Leo Rush, you know, for him to be able to shine as long as he did as X Division champion and have a banger of a match, you know, in that main event against Chris Sabin. Like, it's incredible. It's crazy to see. And so, you know, do yourself a favor, guys. Make sure you're watching Impact Wrestling. Now, what's interesting is, you know, that main event 10-woman tag is the full match is on YouTube on Impact's channel. And already, if you can imagine this, it has 258,000 views. That's insane.
It's extraordinary.
That is really insane for them, considering that the ratings for the show, they pulled in something like 106,000 viewers, which is a very good number for them.
Yeah.
But it's showing the power of social media and how, you know, if for some reason you can't get Access TV, you still can check out these things on YouTube, on the socials, you know, at no cost. But it's worth doing because I think it's important that we support these spaces that support wrestlers that look like us. So shout out to Impact. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Pretty amazing. All right. So there's a couple of other things that we could jump to. One of those things being it's so interesting. WWE offered tryouts to like 12 different wrestlers this week, which are indie stars, which is a thing to talk about. And one of those is a guy named Jay Malachi, who spent some time in AEW on Dark. I've called some matches for him at Battle Slam. He's worked with Caprice Coleman in North Carolina and those kinds of spaces. I'm interested in now that we're in this space of a TKO environment where you've got, you know, WWE, they've had their releases, which many need to understand it's not nearly as many releases as they've done in the past. We went almost 18 months without mass releases in WWE. So there's that. And with these 12 wrestlers that have come in from, you know, Jay Malachi to a number of stars from formerly MLW, OVW, clearly all indie stars that we're looking at, it looks like WWE may be ready to start hiring more indie superstars. So my question to you is, are there any Black indie superstars out there that you think would be a fun catch for WWE right now?
Oh, you know what? It may be obvious, and I know he himself might have things inside himself that he needs to work on.
Mm-hmm.
I still think we are missing a massive trick with Lio Rush. I still think there is, you know, he's gone to WWE, it hasn't worked out. They brought him back, they got rid of him. AEW, there was a whole thing there. He stood up for what he believed in. They basically got rid of him. In places where it's just pretty much just focus on being a wrestler, he is doing good stuff in New Japan and Impact, but he has more within himself to give. And I think Lio Rush is someone that we should definitely be looking to see over there as well. I think Leon Slater from the UK, there's going to be some level of bidding war for this guy. So it's like, get in on him now.
Yeah.
You know, you wanna sign him as soon as possible, in my opinion. Another one, maybe a bit left fieldish, but I think they could use him because there's, after seeing Otis, after seeing Bronson Reed, and what they done there. Again, I know maybe stylistically this isn't to maybe Triple H's taste. Calvin Tankman.
Wow.
I think Calvin Tankman could come and shake up the place. I see him almost a bit like how Shane Taylor shook up the place in Ring of Honor just before Ring of Honor's demise, or you know what happened to Ring of Honor a couple of years back. I think Calvin Tankman can really come and shake up the room, and we have obviously Quincy is gone now. What's the other guy that they've drafted to Raw and haven't used? What's his name again?
Oh, Odyssey Jones.
Odyssey Jones.
Yeah.
We just haven't seen him, and we never saw much of him in NXT anyway.
Right.
Calvin Tankman is these guys in terms of physical stature and everything that we see now with Bronson Reed and this kind of little mini host division that we've got, even counting in the Viking Raiders. But it comes with attitude. There's a certain level of attitude and character that's there, sort of thing. And I believe right now he's a free agent as well. So yeah, and then if I'm to kind of maybe pick one that again is maybe a bit more so obvious, but personally I think we need to see more from him just on a wrestling sphere. Moose. I don't know what Moose is doing in Impact, respectfully. I think he's, if I'm allowed to say, playing it safe a bit. And I think he needs to take some risks in his career, which I'm 100% sure he will pay off.
Yeah.
But maybe he just needs to bet on himself. And, you know, and you never know. Some people, maybe the time's not right in certain things, and people are going through their own situations, sort of thing. And it's like, let me just sit where I am for now, sort of thing.
Yeah.
But Moose should be someone that we talk about in and around main events, you know, in my opinion, sort of thing. So I think, if I can respectfully say, he's not, he needs to move on from Impact. He's outgrown Impact so much so that they don't use him in those really top positions now anyway. So yeah, those are kind of handful of guys that I would love to see come in.
That's a really good list. And it's crazy because, you know, he just re-signed with them a few months back, and it was kind of like, we want more for you, Moose. You know, one of the names that I thought about, and we just saw him a couple of weeks ago on AEW, is Brian Keith. You know, the bounty hunter. I think, first of all, there was so much social media buzz around him that, you know, it was just a thing. Like, it was amazing to watch him work. And I think in this iteration of WWE, be it NXT, Raw, or SmackDown, I think he would do extremely, extremely well. I also think, and I know he's a champion right now, but can you imagine an Alex Kane in WWE? Like,
they're not ready for
they're not ready for Beaumaye. Like, they're not ready for that, man. Like, it would be incredible. And you know what I love about this list, and another guy who I just think he's been tearing things up in Georgia and in independent wrestling for a while, his name is Joe Black. I totally would love to see him in a space like this. What I love about everybody we've named is all diverse. There is no longer a monolithic, unilateral black wrestler that's being presented. There are all sorts of presentations of that, you know, whether they are strong, whether they are smaller, fast, powerhouses. It's all available in pro wrestling right now, which I think is a beautiful space. And it's a space that we've all worked to see happen, right? We've all wanted to see diversity, not just, you know, men, women, black, white, but diversity in what the African-American wrestler looks like, because as a people, we are diverse. And so it's amazing to watch. The last thing I want to end with, which we didn't mention before, it was a brief moment in AEW, but I think the idea of this is going to be crazy. Another backstage segment that happened where Shane Taylor, who is now partnering with Lee Moriarty, which I think that's very interesting. Shane Taylor has put a challenge out to Keith Lee.
Yeah.
What do you make of this, man?
I'm happy they're trying to do something with both guys.
Yeah.
Admittedly, my interest level in it all is pretty low right now. I think what's going to happen, Keith Lee is going to take on Lee Moriarty first.
Yes.
Yeah, which will be good fun. It's a weird one because I think it's almost like we saw with Eddie Kingston and Claudio just a minute ago, where Claudio is quite passive in everything, and Eddie Kingston's like rah 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 rah.
Yeah,
and it's almost like that's what Shane Taylor's doing. He's very much on the offensive,
right?
And Keith Lee's hands in his pockets. His body language is very nonchalant. Like, what are we doing here? Like, I don't care about all of that. Like, but unfortunately, it's rubbing off on me. It's the same way that the Claudio Eddie kind of, was not getting me excited until maybe a week before Grand Slam or so. So that might, it's just a me thing. Maybe Keith just needs to kind of get into it a bit more. But I think getting these guys to have the opportunity, they've got more than enough hours of TV, wherever, if it's a Rampage, Collision, Dynamite, Ring of Honor, to tell this story. So it's good they're getting a chance. Obviously, sliding Lee Moriarty in there is also good. Although I wouldn't really imagine him in the aesthetic of STP, but here we are. Here we are. But no, I think this could be good, and Shane Taylor definitely is taking this as, you know, this is my opportunity sort of thing. I want to see what Keith Lee brings to the table in all of this.
Yeah, I think it has potential to be exciting. I think in the process of it, it saddened me to think, wow, just a couple of years ago, Keith Lee was NXT North American and NXT champion simultaneously.
Yep.
And it's like, what has happened? You know, I don't even know that we can blame, you know, some wanted to blame WWE, but do we now blame AEW for where Keith Lee is right now? I don't know. My hope is that the potential of this feud can fire both of them up and really allow both of them to operate at levels that we know they are both capable of. You know, sometimes it's feuds like this, and I think about, you know, if they can pull off something with the same kind of chemistry that Keith Lee and Dijak had, you know, we'd be in a really special place if that's the case. So I'm intrigued to see what will happen with that. But with that said, that concludes our time. Oh, yes.
Let me just add one thing that I forgot to mention earlier, right? When we were talking about Jade. I just wanted to sum up what Black women are doing right now in wrestling. Yeah.
Please.
Like, obviously, Trinity's had her big reemergence on Impact. She's the Knockouts champion. Athena, you know, undefeated as the Ring of Honor women's champion, and doing some fantastic character work right now as well.
Yes.
With Billy Starks and what's her name, Lexi.
Yes.
Bianca Belair, obviously early this year, became longest reigning women's champion, breaking the record that Becky Lynch previously had. Sasha Banks, or Mercedes Moné, left the WWE, re-emerged earlier this year, won the New Japan, the IWGP Women's title. We're basically waiting for her to make her AEW debut at this point. Could come this weekend at Wrestle Dream. Who knows? Willow went and won the New Japan Strong women's title. That's a fairly new title. First ever Black woman to win that also now as well. Trisha Dora was the highest ranked woman, you know, on that PWI list.
Yeah, highest ranked Black woman. Yep.
And then of course now we've got Jade. How many days as champion, as the TBS champion, undefeated, signed a massive deal, obviously, to come to WWE. Whatever these Black women are drinking, I beg, share it with our Black men in wrestling as well.
Yes.
Like, we need this kind of greatness throughout. And it goes in seasons and it goes in trajectories and everything like that. But, you know, absolutely massive shout out to them and the scene and everything they're doing to push this forward and give little Black girls an opportunity and to open their eyes. And even those that are in it right now are still young in their career, maybe 6 months in, 1 year in, they're seeing money be exchanged hands, titles be exchanged hands, opportunities being, you know, given. Like, it's been a terrific year for Black women in wrestling. So yeah, keep going.
Very well said. You know, and when you think about it, you're right. You know, for years, when you start talking about Black representation and then Black female representation in this business, it was really one or maybe two people at a given time. You know, I mean, you can go back to the days of Miss Jacqueline, right? You know, and then you had Jazz floating somewhere around. But other than that, we didn't have a whole lot. And then they moved off the scene and we ended up with I see her Fox, Alicia Fox, right? Fox. You know, we had her for a bit, and then there really wasn't a counterpart for her, you know, and then we kind of went for then we had, you know, Trinity, aka Naomi, and then we had Sasha, you know, for a bit, and it was always just one or two. You know, you have rattled off about 6 or 7 Black women who aren't just wrestling, but are literally at the top of their divisions, you know, be it Impact, Ring of Honor, AEW, WWE, all of the New Japan, all of the major promotions in this business have had in the last year or so a Black woman in charge. And I see the comment there, Awesome Kong, and again, Tasha Steeles, all of these amazing women, at different elements and different times, but to have them all together right now, it's incredible. And so, as you were mentioning for little Black girls, if you think about it, if you grew up in the 80s or in the 90s or even in the 2000s, you did not have a lot of Black faces you could look at to say, hey, I want to be that in pro wrestling, whether it was, a wrestler, a manager, a commentator, a ring announcer. Because if you're talking about Black women, we have to talk about Alicia Taylor in NXT. We have to talk about Samantha, who is killing it on Monday Night Raw. Like, again, remember when it was a rarity to see a woman as a ring announcer. And now, 2 of the 3 brands of WWE have Black female ring announcers. We're in a special time, folks.
We're not starving.
We are not. Listen. And there's more to come, because you look at the funnel in NXT, 3 of the 4 members of Metaphor are Black. 2 of them are Black women, and then you've got Kaylani. I can't remember her last name now. The gymnast. Jordan. Yeah, there it is. Right. So there are people in the pipeline who are coming in who have the opportunity to be able to make waves in all of pro wrestling. And that is what makes all of this so special right now, is that kids who are growing up don't have to lack like the generations that have gone by, where we didn't have some of these names and faces to be able to look to that then could be successful. Think about it. In the last, 3 to 4 years, we've had 2 Black men as 3 Black men as WWE champion, right? Like it is an amazing thing. And when you sit down, it's one of the reasons why this platform and platforms like it are so important, because we cannot expect other people to move the needle and have the conversations. We are the ones that are doing that are generating that help people on the socials to see, oh, this is important. Oh, this needs to be highlighted. Black wrestlers realize it. They absolutely do, and I think as Black fans, because again, in the Attitude Era and in the start of the internet, this wasn't a thing, it wasn't. And so this is just, it's special. And I think it's worth taking the time to be able to say, hey, this matters. And this is why we're doing this. And so shout out Mex, shout out A Dazzle, because the work that's being done in these spaces helps everybody, And so the last thing I'll say about this is we have these conversations to talk about what happens in front of the camera, but it's also important to see what happens behind the camera as well. How are we represented in these executive spaces? How are we represented in these creative meetings? How are we represented in places like commentary to be able to tell the stories and things of that nature? All of this is of such great importance. So do yourself a favor as you see Black talent out there, shout them out, show them love. It doesn't have to be their birthday or anything, but show them appreciation, because what many in this generation don't realize is this is not the way it always was. It's not the way. And I really believe that platforms like this have helped to shine the spotlight so we can have a Wale Mania, so we can have, these varying moments that celebrate African-American culture in pro wrestling, and we can be unapologetically who we are. So with that said, that was fun. We're going to wrap things up. Man, Mex, tell everybody how they can reach out to you and find all of your good stuff on the socials.
So guys, yeah, you know it already. WrestleManiac UK, WrestleManiac.uk on Instagram, WrestleManiac UK everywhere else. Yeah, just keep supporting, like we're saying. Check out everything we're doing. And Gerard, you want to let the people know where to find your stuff?
For sure. You can find me at Bonnerfied on all the spaces. You can check out our wrestling podcast at The Faction Show. Also, you can check out my commentary work with Southern Honor Wrestling and IWE on IWTV. Our work with Battle Slam is on Fight TV, and work with the Nightmare Factory is on YouTube as well. And yeah, make sure you're checking that out. Of course, you can check out all things Black Wrestling Alliance at Black Wrestling Alliance on Instagram, BWA Dazzle on X, Twitter, whatever we're calling it these days. Yeah. But by all means, be sure to support these spaces because it is so important. I just can't express enough how valuable these platforms are. And to even be able to see faces like ours talking about this sport, again, not something that we've seen a whole lot, and hopefully we'll get more of our faces in some other fantastic places on a national and global platform. Okay, well, we're out of here, guys. Until next time, this has been WrstlXtra.
Take care, guys.